The Sony A6700 is the latest and greatest true hybrid camera in Sony's APS-C line of cameras. If you're looking for an upgrade that isn't full frame, this may well be your answer. Here's my review of the Sony A6700, going through the best features that make this more than just an update of any camera in the A6000 series. It's been a month since I've owned this camera and I'm loving it so far. But look here. Like the Sony FX30, the image coming out of this downsampled 6K sensor are going to give you an excellent look. Just note that the 4K is going to be sharper than its softer 1080p resolution. Straight out of camera, the color and skin tones look great though. Compared to the Sony FX30, it should be the same colors as it really is the same sensor. If you don't already own the FX30, you're going to appreciate the dual base ISO of 800 and 2500 for the cleanest image that you can get out of this baby. The size is as you would expect. Nice and compact with some extra depth in the grip, much appreciated at 493 grams. The buttons aren't that different from the typical A6000 series cameras, except the location of the record button and making this awkward button on the grip now a custom button. One of the most underrated features that I love about the Sony A6700 is this mode dial. In addition to the separate photo and video settings for manual mode, you can program 9 different quick settings to this dial. 3 for photo, 3 for video, and S&Q. Subscribe if you want to catch that video in the future. Do note that there is only one memory card slot, and it may demand more than just a regular SD card. You see, in order to take advantage of the video settings, you'll need a V90 card to get all the video codecs in all the modes. Otherwise, V60 is at least going to get you 4K 120 with native recording. For most people, the V60 cards will be enough. Besides memory cards, we've got all-day battery, unless you're shooting video. More on that later with the overheating. Just know that when it comes to photos, you'll be covered to shoot all day for the average day trip. No more small batteries that last you half the time. Like the Sony FX30 and latest Sony full-frame cameras, we have the same formats that range from the compressed XAVC SHD to the XAVC SI 4K. But just note that you'll be getting a 1.5 to 1.6 crop when shooting 4K 120. Just like the premium Sony full-frame cameras, you're getting SLOG3 with 10-bit and S-Cinetone. So you can really maximize your colors in post and even keep it simple out of camera if you'd like. That last part is especially true, because if you want to skip the color grading process in post for talking heads like this, you can burn in LUTs in your camera if you'd like. I use Phantom LUTs if you want to check that out down below. But if you shoot in log mode, you can still use the LUTs as a preview and it won't be burned in. But more often than not, I'm always burning in my LUTs. So much easier. Similar to the Sony ZV-E1, the Sony A6700 has the auto tracking feature that is able to crop into a set frame, track you, and keep you centered. I personally don't use this feature much at all unless it's for behind the scenes. But for photo though, I appreciate how well it tracks your subject's face and predicts where the eyes are, even when they're turned around. Although this camera has an AI built in, like the Sony ZV-E1, this camera was not blessed with a dynamic stabilization as the ZV-E1. Sony, why bro? Why? At least we still have the active stabilization though, on top of the standard stabilization. For an additional 1.1 times crop, we'll have a steadier shot, especially for our handheld static shots. Now this camera is just sounding amazing thus far, but now it's time to talk about overheating. Unlike my Sony ZV-E1, this camera lasted a long time with its unlimited recording. 4K 24 lasted 1 hour 50 minutes in room temperature of 77 Fahrenheit or 25 degrees Celsius. It was warm to touch, but there was no temperature warning and recorded until the battery was exhausted at 0%. 4K 60 lasted 21 minutes and 1080p 24 frames per second lasted 3 hours and 14 minutes in the same conditions. I was fortunate with my copy, but other creators like Victor La Forteza was only able to record less than 30 minutes in 4K 24 and less than 15 minutes on 4K 60. I didn't record at the highest bitrate, but still, these times are drastic. So do test your own individual unit. If you're coming from full frame cameras, you already know that the low light performance is not going to be as great. Your shallow depth of field and bokeh won't be the same. But are those reasons to turn this camera away? This thing costs $13.95. The standard price that Sony prices their latest and greatest APS-C cameras. Of all the camera releases at this price, I believe that this one really is the best value. When they were selling the A6500 at this price, it was basically the A6300 with an in-body stabilization. When they sold the A6600 at this price, it was basically the A6400 with an in-body stabilization and bigger battery. But the A6700 at this price is leaps and bounds ahead of any of the A6000 series cameras. In the Sony APS-C camera world, your video experience is only second to the Sony FX30. If you already have all the APS-C lenses you need, and you want to take a step up in video without cashing in on something like the Sony FX30, this is it. I can't say that the AI features will change your mind when it comes to photo, but when it comes to all the features that are packed into this camera in favor of video, like 10-bit color, 4K 60, 4K 120, and even active stabilization, we finally don't have to upgrade to full frame to get premium video features. Come on now! If you want camera comparisons with this camera, I'll catch you over here. Until next time, go out there and shoot for the life that matters. See ya!